cayenne.
Now, I was surprised about this, and this is a challenge. When you talk about health, or you get to used to talking about what you're dealing with, other people dealing with, you
Yeah.
end up in environments, in rooms, talking about similar things. And then you forget, oh, everybody's not talking about this. And I think everybody, I know people who are familiar with all kind of spices, who,
Yeah.
and I mean, even from a cooking standpoint, who really don't even know what cayenne pepper is. so, so it's Cayenne. Cayenne pepper is very available. Although Bruce may give you some insights on which
Good
ones
stuff
are
is
actually good, because they're not all
good
equal.
stuff is hard to find
Yeah.
because I lost a source for my cayenne. It's been hard to replace. Tried finding it on Amazon. You won't find you'll find like something that says 30,000 heat units, probably not even that. You want cayenne that's at least 150,000 heat units. You could probably just get, I mean, they got monster hot sauces around now today. So if you could end up just finding a hot sauce. You just want to make sure they have the heat units on there, and you want at least 150,000. I've had as much as I think 500,000 before, and I diluted that with my 150,000 and brought it back down. But so you want the really hot stuff that's not typically, it's not going to be in the capsules on the health food store shelf. You got to look a little harder. If you can look for habanero, Haber, Habenerro, I think. Habanero, which is anybody who's Mexican knows habanero.
Keep it hot. Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we got some here.
So habaneros are usually up in that heat category. Jalapeno, not as much. That might be 70, 80,000. So you can. I was going to write a book on this. I've actually pretty much wrote it and never published it, on how to stop a heart attack in 30 seconds. Heart attack or a stroke works the same thing because it pushes the blood. There's my teacher, Dr. Richard Scholl. He had a guy come for his appointment one time. He parked in the parking lot, but he never came in. And so Dr. Scholl's saying, we're behind time, went out, talked to his secretary. Where's Mr. So-and-so? Well, I see his car, but he never came in. He walked out. The guy was slate gray. He had died in the parking lot. Dr. Scholes immediately went inside, grabbed his very hot cayenne tincture, came out and put some dropperfuls in the guy's mouth, and the guy woke up. His color returned.
I'm getting all kind of revelation about different things that I've seen happen over the years. But what I'm gonna do now.
Well, let me tell you this about cayenne. Just a real quick one about cayenne.
Well, we're not going to get off that. We're not going to get off
that. Let me share you God's genius in that, though. So it'll help with a stroke too, right? It'll help stop bleeding. I mean, if you got a wound there, well, clean it first, but you can take the cayenne powder, pack it down in there, it'll stop the bleeding. If somebody's hemorrhaging internally, take enough cayenne, it will stop that bleeding on the inside.
Now, if they were doing that, how would they take it internally?
Well, you can do a tincture, and
what's a tincture?
A tincture is a liquid form of that. Generally, they're gonna use alcohol to be able to make that tincture to pull the properties out. And you don't have to be concerned about the amount of alcohol. You're going to use like 2 droppers at a time. You can barely see that in the bottom of your cup. And so it's very minuscule. I mean, it's not as much alcohol that's in a ripe banana even. So it's very, very minuscule. But that pulls those phytochemicals and properties out of the herb when you make a tincture. And so that would be like in a dark glass bottle, you would find a tincture. But you can use, the way I would typically sip it throughout the day, and did that for years and years, which I'll take, maybe a half teaspoon of that cayenne. And I tried taking capsules. That's like dropping a nuclear bomb down your GI tract. When that capsule dissolves, it's all at one time. And it's, by the way, if you ever take too much and the heat's too strong, it's the chili peppers or cayenne are a cousin to tomato. Tomato helps cut the heat for some reason. And there's times I like kind of overdosed because sometimes I'd take it before a meal, like a half a teaspoon, got busy and forgot to eat yet.
Forgot to eat.
Now it's exploding. You know, if I get food on top, it's okay. But if that exploded, just eating food alone is not going to help. Now, I would go grab a jar of pasta sauce and I start eating the pasta sauce, and it kills the heat. Now, there's sometimes I've gone through a whole brand new bottle of pasta sauce and got to
that's a lot.
so I was way too much on fire, and but you know what I ended up learning to do is put like the cayenne in a full glass of water over here. I just take sips kind of, you know, over the next hour or two, and I would have a chaser, just only water here. So after I take that, then I would drink this too. I have an herbal stuff that has cayenne in it. You snuff it up, it lights up your sinuses. But there are people that were supposed to have scheduled surgery on their sinuses. They didn't have to have the surgery because this herbal stuff has also got some things to fight infection and so on. It cleaned out their sinuses and it erased. I've helped people with, back when we were in the church together in Grand Rapids, I had a lady with strep throat. For 3 weeks, the doctor changed her prescription 3 times. And she's at my house for the home Bible study. I said, come in the kitchen with me. I had already made up, I have immune boost there with garlic and cayenne in it and some other things. I made a fresh horseradish root, which is hard for me to find anymore, but I'd have, and out of a jar doesn't work. It's weak as well water. So I grate up fresh horseradish and mix that with apple cider vinegar, make it kind of a slushy thing. Because if you're having postnasal drip or like some type of infection in the throat, whatever, or sinus, this stuff is very, very powerful. And especially the first day it's made. So I've just made some up. I gave her some. She kind of danced around my kitchen for a little bit.
I guess.
It's different type of burn. It's a burn, but it's different than a cayenne burn, which is burning going down. This burn's going up. You know,
this was not a Holy Ghost dance she was doing?
Yeah, it kind of looked like it. It was energetic. And I gave her the immune boost and sent her home. Well, in 3 days it was gone. 3 weeks with the doctor and antibiotics, it didn't work. So the cayenne, the genius about it is it'll stop bleeding, right? Well, if somebody has a bleeding nose because they injured it, you can give them cayenne or even put some cayenne, you know, kind of pack it into the nose. It'll stop the bleeding. If they're bleeding because they have a stroke, the cayenne will not stop the bleeding.
Okay.
It's a thinking herb. How does it know that you had a stroke?
It goes where it's supposed to go.
Well, what happens is that if a person had a stroke, their blood and you probably know this, you know, from being a fireman, but it's like a release valve.
Right.
It's relieving pressure from their swollen brain.
Correct.
So cayenne won't stop that bleeding because it could kill them.
Right.
But the cayenne can stop the stroke.
But you asked the question, how does it know?
There's only one way for it to know. When God created it,
that's its purpose.
He stamped its purpose and its assignment.
Right. No further.
A drug can't do that.
A drug, no. You're right.
Plus, if I take the seed of that cayenne, put it in the ground, it's going to grow something. There's life there. There's life in that seed.
Right.
If I take a pharmaceutical pill planted in the ground, there's no life there.
There's no life there. Now you mentioned the hot stuff. And wait, let me do several things right now.
Let me tell you one quick genius thing again.
Let me make a note. Okay, go ahead.
Poison ivy.
Okay.
If you're out in the woods and you come in contact with poison ivy,
right?
You know, God put the antidote within 15 feet of that poison ivy.
It's also a plant, right?
It's also a plant. It's called jewelweed.
Right.
every place, unless man was there and cleared it out, if you come in contact with poison ivy, God put the antidote within 15 feet.
Within 15 feet.
The
The
genius
purpose.
creation. Yeah.
It
Purpose and
is.
assignment.
Right. Now, along that path, while I get along that path, let me say this part first, because we're going to end up going further, obviously. We've only begun, the rabbit holes have only begun. So
Yeah.
this is not, for whatever purposes and reasons these things are said, I'm going to say them for the same reasons. This is technically not giving medical advice. Exactly. We're not pretending to give medical advice. However,
education.
We are being educational, and we are telling the truth about testimonies. A testimony is a testimony, no matter who you give credit to. And Absolutely. So that's where we're going with this. Keep your heart and your mind open for any way that this, even if things don't necessarily come out as a specific thing to your cognitive understanding, let it resonate. Yeah. You will hear something. See, now I'm talking. Now I'm preaching.
Yeah.
You know, that ain't medical.
Absolutely.
You will hear something from the one who speaks. All right. Now, when you mentioned, I was going to go down the list of everybody should have in their cabinet some cayenne pepper. Everybody should have in their
first aid kit.
Right. Yeah. Right. So that's not medical advice. That's
right.
But you should have.
They call 911.
Right. Now you can call your medicine cabinet your cupboard if you want to.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. And garlic. Well, I don't like. I'm like somebody. I don't like the way it makes my breath smell. Your breath may smell anyway. So
get some essential peppermint oil.
Peppermint oil.
Better than a mint, because this is the real oil. And just put a little bit in water or put a drop in your mouth. It'll take care of the smell.
Right. And there's other green stuff you can eat and chew on that's that'll help with different things like that too. So, but if it's a choice between bad breath or something worse, okay, you can have bad breath for a couple of minutes. You don't have to worry about that.
Another one, yeah.
But also, you said lobelia.
Lobelia, yeah.
That has to be spelled. And
Lobellia. And I'm not even sure you can get that on Amazon. Maybe.
Well, I'm going to say because
I can give. There are. You can still find it on the internet, though. There are companies like Frontier that will have all kinds of verbs. You know, Frontier.
The possibility of having access to cayenne, and then going further on finding out what's the quality part, or the part about finding garlic, and then going a little bit further to find out best quality differences. That's right there. But this would be probably more unfamiliar. So why don't you give us a little bit about that?
Well, lobelia essentially is a weed out in nature, but it's a powerful herb. And lobelia essentially has to do with respiratory, is one of the best things. Or again, that's, I explained that if you ate something that was harmful, poisonous, whatever, you could use that in strong enough dose to make you vomit. And so it'll clean out the stomach really well. But it also, in smaller doses, it's going to dilate the bronchial tubes. So people have done well to recover of respiratory diseases like emphysema. What's the other one? Children typically have asthma. Asthma could help with that. It'll help clear out the mucus out of those tubes too.
I want to tie that together with what we were talking about a little, or part of what we were talking about a little bit ago, concerning the causes of inflammation. Inflammation, of course, inflammation. The things you're naming right there. Inflammation plays a part in that. So it's a lot of people, and we think of the word holistic. I want to go down that any type of outside understanding of that. But if you think about whole, a lot of times when we're talking about certain types of ways of dealing with situations that we're used to in our own medical community, they're talking about the possibility, not the definite, but the possibility of something being in there that helps one thing. while it tears to bits everything else.
Right.
However, when you're talking about things that are natural and have a purpose, many of the times they're helping something while not harming other things. And there's usually some added value to things that aren't even the specific target when you
Right.
take it. Now, in the same manner, we have, if we just say inflammation, or we just say asthma, we can forget about all the different areas and different ways that someone ends up with something that can be classified as asthma, because there's a bunch of different ways that a person ends up with this thing called asthma. Yet you have something that actually is a help no
Yeah.
matter
No matter
which,
what.
because no matter what. And so these things are really important. And also for the purpose of not saying, no, this is it. That's it. This is it in this situation, but there tends to be, with the natural helps, there always tends to be more. It has a target, but it usually does more help. Now, I want to tie this to another part, because somewhere along here we're supposed to be talking about men's health specifically, but I don't think we need to pivot to that. Okay. I think we can maybe parallel some of the things concerning men's health specifically. One of them is, we know that sometimes it's called the number one killer is heart disease. And the way that it affects men and women, there are some differences. I don't want to gab too much about this, but over the years, some of what I've learned concerning men and women's differences in health have mostly come through women. Now, there's male doctors who are very good, or male caretakers, or even who've written about some great things. But a lot of the serious differentiating revelations that I've got for myself, and quite frankly, for a lot of men in my family, have come because there was a lot of information on women things. I would think like Dr. Mindy Pels. She wrote the book How to Fast Like a Woman, or How to Fast Like a Girl, and Barbara O'Neill. Much of what I found out is very beneficial to men came while they were talking about the difference.
Yeah.
But that's an off thing. So I'm going to get off that rabbit trail and get back to the heart thing.
Yeah.
When you mention these having an effect on the heart, what I was seeing 30 and 40 years ago in real time concerning hormones, men and women, boys and girls, because I was going to hundreds or thousands of medical situations. I worked in a hospital 5 years. Then there's the medical part of, then there's a ministry part of going to see people. Then there was every day working in a fire department, just a lot of medicals.
Right.
There was a point in the late 80s to the mid 90s where I was watching teenage girls and young women begin to go through what people used to call time of life changes, right, that women used to go into after their 40s.
Right.
And it was obvious.
They're only around 48.
Yeah, but these were teens going through it. And it was obvious. There was something else.
Puberty really early.
Really early. But I was also seeing a different hormonal activity was happening concerning younger men, but I did not know what that was. I knew I was observing it. I had some opinions about what it might be coming from. And it's just only the last few years that I'm getting clarity about what I was looking at.
Yeah.
The sources of those problems for young men and young women were the same, I believe. Mostly our food. That's what it's mostly connected to.
Yep.
The hormonal activity were causing young women to have a lot of problems with giving birth, a lot of problems with the thyroid, a lot of problems with a lot of things that mostly women went through, if they went through it, at a much older age. Yeah. But it was all the time. What I was seeing with young guys, a lot of them were having heart attacks. And there was no correct connection to like having taken cocaine or anything like that. Now I'm realizing that the heart diseases that are that are affecting so many men in their 50s and 60s. It was affecting a lot of men in their 20s and 30s. These type
Yeah.
of heart problems,
Yeah.
circulation problems, and hormonal problems were at work a long time, and we've been watching them.
Yeah.
So now that's a little bit of actually me telling instead of asking a question. But any direction you want to go to concerning that or men's health in general, if you've seen a difference or if there's a difference you want to things to look out for or be concerned about, because the other thing that I found out concerning the heart issue, of course, a lot of people, they don't know. For a lot of people, what do you say? Well, what was your first symptom that you had a heart problem, a heart attack? There's got to be something, that's pretty.
Well, they say the number one symptom of a heart attack is death.
Is death. It's actually death.
Yeah, there's no choice now.
Right. So people who are around, they've made it to their 40s, 50s, or 60s. Something was going on a long time before that.
Yeah.
And what I was seeing in real time is it's not talked about much, but there's a lot of 30-year-old guys who have heart attacks and they die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always want to know where the root cause is. So like we're talking about respiratory, sharing how you can use lobelia, but you still need to know the cause, the root, and deal with that. Don't just trim at the outer branches of the tree,
Yeah.
The problem goes down to the root.
Right.
And so stress is the first one, because again, CDC, 85% of all disease related to stress, that affects the mitochondria, that affects the heart. And the mitochondria being off can create the chronic inflammation. So you get inflammation in those arteries. Then the artery wall, because of the inflammation, is turned on all the time. It gets little tears in it.
Right.
And you would bleed to death if your body didn't have a mechanism to patch up those tears. What it does, it uses cholesterol to patch up the tear. And cholesterol is not the problem. It's not the cause of the heart disease any more than now. Back in the day, if living in Grand Rapids, if I noticed anytime I would hear a fire alarm and I see these red trucks with Chris Burns in it driving down the road, and if I got in my car and followed them down, I would come to a place and I see a house on fire. And if I kept saying that, I could conclude, if I use scientific studies the way they're sometimes used, I can conclude that I've observed that every time I hear an alarm and I see this red truck and these guys jump out of the truck, well, there's a house on fire. So they're going around the city starting fires every place, because I see them at the scene of the crime. I see these fire trucks there, so they must be causing fires. That's what we're doing with cholesterol.
Right.
Cholesterol saved your life.
Yeah, get rid of the cholesterol.
And you're blaming cholesterol, yet and then you think, well, back in the 70s, they told us, don't eat butter. That's bad for your heart because it's fat. Eat margarine, which is a trans fat. Well, everybody now knows trans fat is like plastic in your arteries. The medical community and the big food industry had us eating garbage that man made rather than foods that God made.
Right.
So because of their fear of cholesterol. But if you didn't eat any fat at all, your liver is still going to make cholesterol. And as a man too, you won't have any testosterone without cholesterol. Right. So cholesterol is not the problem. Cholesterol is at the scene of the crime, but it's there to keep you alive. It's better to have a blocked artery for a while, where if you got smart, you would find the reason why this is going on and heal it, because the heart's one of the easiest things to heal. And rather than blame, as medical community did for a long time, blame the cholesterol. But the cholesterol is only there because the inflammation caused the tears, and you would have bled out, hemorrhage, if it didn't do its job. So what we need to do is not really focus on the cholesterol, but focus on the cause of inflammation. What are you eating, or what are you eating, not physically, but what are you eating with your emotions that's eating you that may be causing this problem, and and start getting to the root. So